the book of Ecclesiastes, he's talking about just the cycle pattern, right? In the book of Ecclesiastes, he's just talking about the problem of, things rising and falling, and seeing all the implications of that. Like, what's the purpose of life if everything you do gets destroyed? That was his reflection. And he probably got those reflections by observing the sun and the cycles. So what does it matter if it's gravity that causes this, this manifestation? It doesn't. You can still see the pattern. You can still understand the nature of this manifestation, the cycle. So in the Ecclesiastes, he comes up with all the conclusions of what is the implication of living in a cycle. What is the implication of that? You're born, you die. It's like nothing happens really in the end, and you can do that with anything. You can see the cycle pattern in anything. So you see what I'm saying? It's like there's a technical level to reality that is not as important as people think. It's important when you do science and when you do engineering and stuff like that, but it's not really important as a human, as who we are. Understanding the technicality of how things work, is that really important? I mean, like we were talking about before, gardening. Right. If you experience gardening, is it really important to know the biology and all the technical, molecular explanations of how the plant grows? No, it's not. It's really not. It changes nothing to the gardening, actually. If you can be really good at gardening and know absolutely nothing about molecules and atoms and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Like there's different levels.
You could still put a seed in the ground and it sprouts up, and you can still engage with it all that way.
You engage with it, and it's like there's different levels, and we have a tendency to think that the bottom level is more real than the upper levels. It's not more real.
Like the scientific, technical, know how it works level.
Yeah, or for example, like saying that the atom is made of molecules and atoms. Somehow that's more real than the level of the plant itself that has its own laws and rules, and it develops and things. But it doesn't matter how the atoms work at that level. It's like, if you're familiar with computers, we can use the analogy of a computer. It's actually a really good analogy. You can be a computer programmer, and know zero about the hardware. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're a programmer, zero about how the computer works.
Yeah, no
and you
can
DOS, still be
no
a programmer.
Ones and zeros.
Yeah. And no like the mechanics of the computer, the wires and the you don't need to know that level, and you can still be a programmer. So isn't that interesting though? So it's not true that these levels have to be connected to each other in your knowledge. Here's another, the opposite, the flip side is also true. You can know exactly how a computer works, technically, physically, and not know how to program. These levels are not as connected as we might imagine. They're not, actually, they're separate because they're at different levels. The computer, the programmer doesn't need to know there's different kinds of computers anyway. I mean, you can make different kinds of computers. You can make computers with, vacuum.
You can make like a tablet.
Yeah, you can make a computer with gears. They used to do that in the old days. They made basically calculating machines just out of gears and stuff like that. Literally mechanical calculators. So, but your program doesn't depend on this level.
Yeah.
You can have different kinds of computers and still have the same program that runs on different computers. It's the same program. So it's similar. In life, you have a technical level that's like mechanical, almost like a computer, like the physics of it. But the scientists and most people like that are trying to explain the upper levels always with the lower levels. But there's no guarantee that these two levels are connected in the way that they're trying to make it seem it is. Just like the program is not connected to the hardware of the computer, maybe reality is made in the same way. There's a level of technical atomic stuff or whatever, molecules, and is it really that connected to the next level, which is, let's say, for example, life, living creatures, how they interact with each other and how they function.
Like a social level.
Maybe not connected at all. you know, maybe this level of atoms and molecules could be totally different, could be made of other material, and it would still be the same rules functioning above it, just like a computer program doesn't need always the same computer hardware. So this
Okay.
is kind of the stuff I start to understand at one point. This was helpful for me because it led me away from a certain way of thinking that we're used to, because it's, we see it around us, because of the dominance of science.